Hey everybody, welcome to this live show. Every Tuesdays at 3 p.m. we answer your questions live. This is the live tech show number 36. And today we are June 7th, 2016. Yes, the real June 7th. Yesterday in the news, I did a little mistake and said it was Monday, June 7th, but it's today, June 7th. So welcome everybody to the live show. Of course, we've got lots of questions that we will answer today. And where do you send your questions? Basically, helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Lots of interesting questions as usual. Really, really nice to have everybody on board. So this is coming to you from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And my name is Gilles. And we, of course, will answer your questions. Incredible, show 36. I still remember when I started show number 1. I was thinking, wow, it's going to take time to, get some numbers here. Show 36, pretty surprising. So donations, if you like what I do, if you in any way want to participate, help me get better equipment, help me stay on the air, because the time that I spend doing this, I'm not spending it working as a tech guy. That means, of course, revenues are not the same. I do monetize from YouTube, but it's not much compared to what I need. Life is expensive, so donations keeps the show on the air, keeps the live shows. Hope that everyone can spare a little something. Even the little bits help. Thank you for all of those that have already donated. And for those that can't, don't worry about it. It's fine. So we're going to start with our questions today. And I'm going to say hi to everybody on board. So some random questions. First, questions that we answer today from Viper the Bookman, our regular contributor to questions here. So one of the things that he's talking about is how to take some parts of the computer off. He says that, for example, there's you can clean the power supply, CPU, fan, but there's 2 front fans that you can't. He wants to know if they come off or not. Typically, the thing is, in computers, every part's usually get off at some point. The computer casing in a desktop is made, just of a bare metal case. Then it goes to a factory where they assemble it. Now the thing is, some parts of the computer are very tricky to get to. You got to be very careful. Some are easy. You see their screws. You see that it's like this. A lot of them are clipped. Use of clips is very, very popular today. So some of these fans can be just clipped on the side of the case, for example. Now, when you're not totally, you're not a tech guy, when you're not super confident about doing something, what I would usually say is, well, don't worry about it. If you have difficult access to a part of a computer and you're afraid of breaking something, just leave it as it is. And if some occasion arises, then you can maybe get it cleaned by someone that knows a little more about how these things work. Especially when they're using plastic, usually it's plastic clips. Very easy to break plastic clips if you're not careful. Sometimes the access to some parts means that you need to take off the front of the computer. So often the plastic on the front can be removed. This is also clipped in many ways. So, be careful. And if you're not really sure or you don't want to break anything, I would just leave it alone. It's the best advice I think that we can give for that. As for other questions also that you have concerning how frequent do we clean our computer. You know what? A desktop computer or laptop computer, I would say once a year is enough for most people. If you live in a very dusty environment, somewhere where, I don't know, it's kind of more of a desert-like environment. There's lots of dust in the air. If the PC is in a business, where there's a lot of dust, very often businesses have lots of dust inside. If you smoke, things like that, these are basically, these need to be cleaned a little more often than usual. An example of that is one of my clients that's not very far from here has he works wood, and basically, of course, sawdust is everywhere, and I mean, there's dust everywhere when he works in his basement, and that's where the computer is. In his case, I've shown him how to clean his computer about every 3 months, because there's so much dust created that the fans get clogged by dust very, very fast. So depending on how dusty the environment is, and that you'll know by looking at the fans. Say you haven't cleaned your computer in 2 years. Look at the fans. Are the fans just a little bit dusty? That means once a year is more than enough. If you've got that big chunk of dust and all sorts of, cat air and whatever clogging the CPU fan, maybe a little quicker, maybe once every 6 months. It depends on the dust of the environment, and that's for sure. It's up to you to decide on that. You're talking about should you also back up your Windows 8.1 in case something goes wrong when you upgrade to Windows 10. You say that you've got reinstallation DVDs. So you know what? You don't really need to back it up. If you got reinstalled DVDs, that means you can reinstall the operating system on your computer if something goes wrong with Windows 10. So it's not necessary to do so. And it's just a question of reinstalling your computer if something does go wrong with the Windows 10, for sure. And so the reinstallation DVD that you have with the computer should be fine. Usually no problem there, and don't worry about it. So any other thing here? So he's posting a few pictures of his casing and everything. So if you have difficulty getting into some parts of the computer, don't worry about it. Leave it alone. It's better doing that than to break it and then you don't have a computer. That's for sure. And Viper the Bookman was listening to my question when I was asking where everybody was from. So he's said that he's from the Mississippi in the United States. So nice to have you on board. Viper the Bookman, take care. Hope I answered pretty much your questions. Just checking quick if I haven't missed anything, but I think once a year is enough. In a regular environment, not too dusty or anything, for sure. Next question, hardware questions. So let's check it out here. We have in our hardware questions, first of all, we'll go to the Stephen Mail that has a Dell Laptop Studio 1555. So as we were talking last week, I was mentioning that I think that probably what's wrong with his laptop computer would be the RAM. I think the RAM must have some problem. So he says it comes with SODIMM DDR2 800 megahertz. So I don't know. Yeah, he was talking about there's Tim Robinson that's watching our channel that mentioned he had a RAM, so I don't know if it's available. So I will, ask Tim if he ever has that type of memory or anything. He was checking out that he was checking out his RAM, so it's 800 megahertz SODIMM DDR2 for, of course, a laptop. And it had originally a Windows 7 computer bought in 2009. Is this upgradable from 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM? It might not. On DDR2 machines, very often, a lot of the machines I've seen that use DDR2 are maxed at 4 gigabytes. So it depends on the specs, this very specific specification of that computer. I would think that 4 gigabytes might be the maximum that the motherboard can accept. But you know, it's not impossible. It could accept 8 gigabytes. That's for sure. So as for laptops with an OEM version of Windows 10 did not get original Windows 10 icon, actually not true, because a lot of OEM computers that I've seen did get the upgrade for Windows 10 in their computers. I would say that most of those that didn't get it, either there's a bug or the computer is just not compatible. Because I did see a lot among my clients, I've seen many OEM machines. OEM means original equipment manufacturer. That's the original Windows coming with an HP or a Toshiba or a brand computer. And yes, they are upgradable too. But a lot of brand computers did not have the minimum requirements though to upgrade to Windows 10. So that's for sure. So he's talking about a little history here of upgrade did not go well to upgrade to Windows 10. In December 2015, went to Windows 8.1. So says that Windows 10 crashed several times on that machine. So there could be a RAM issue, but there could be, one question that I'm wondering, if in Windows 7, did you have a great working computer? Was Windows 7 stable and working well? That was something that to think about. Could it be that Windows 8, Windows 10 has some kind of memory management that is different and that crashes a computer? That's also something to think about. How was Windows 7 working on that computer, Steve? I wonder. I wonder if Windows 7 worked well. That would be interesting to see if Windows 7 reinstalled, if it comes back to normal. By curiosity. Very weird. Some machines, behave very, very weirdly. And I've seen computers from my clients that have these weird errors that you're just wondering about. And, it was working fine in one OS and it has these weird errors in another OS. And you're never able to fix it. It always works weird. And then you go back to the old operating system and it works fine. Some computers very, very bizarre on that side, and depending on how the operating system actually checks all of that, also very, very unique problems sometimes. We also have a question from Mark. Mark asking me when you purchase RAM for a computer. So the type of RAM when upgrading. Basically, you know what? Most of the time it's extremely easy to know what type of RAM you're using, because if you open the computer and you look at the RAM modules, on the RAM modules, very often you'll see something like 4 gigabyte DDR3, 6400. So that gives you the amount of RAM you have of that module, the type of memory that you need to get, so DDR3, and then you see the speed, 6400. A trick that I mentioned last week, say you're buying DDR2 6400 and you've got access to DDR2 that is faster. It works fine. Faster RAM will work in a slower computer as long as it's the same type of memory. So the important thing about RAM is checking out, is it DDR2, DDR3, DDR4. That's the most important thing. And you cannot go wrong. If you have DDR3 and what you have in your hand is DDR2, it won't fit. there's a little notch, and the notch is in a different place on each type of module so that you can't insert the wrong type of memory. So it's quite easy, it's easy to buy the wrong one, but it's impossible to install the wrong one, at least. Mark also has another question and says that he's presently running a 1 terabyte hard drive from Seagate that's running at 10,000 RPM. He bought a very fast spinning disk. He says, would I gain anything in changing that for a SSD drive? One of the reasons why, I've noticed that there's a very high-pitched whining noise on that hard drive. I wonder if it's defect or not. It's not. 10,000 and 15,000 RPM hard drives have this very high-pitched whining sound that's very, very, very unpleasant. That's why you almost never see them, because unless you're in a environment that's already noisy, it can, in a room with very low noise, be very, very hard on the ears, especially if your hearing is good. Yes, you would gain in getting an SSD. Even the fastest disk spinning hard drives, regular magnetic hard drives, are no way close to the speeds of SSDs. So yes, you would have a major gain in startup speed and overall performance with an SSD. There's a big difference. So yeah, you should go to an SSD if that's what you wish. Okay, so the other question here we have is from John. John is, I love your shows. Everything you do is great. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you very much. Question. Bought a new 1 terabyte hard drive to replace a 500 megabyte hard drive that I had, a gigabyte hard drive, sorry. Hard drive that he had in his computer. Now, when he pops it in, inserts the Windows disk, doesn't see it. What gives? Two things can happen. I need more details on what computer you're actually plugging that 1 terabyte drive. For a simple reason, the first motherboards that came out with SATA connectors cannot handle 1 terabyte drives. They max out somewhere at 500 or 640 gigabyte. So it could be, if your computer is really old, the first generations of SATA, it could be that it's not seen because it's the first generation. The other thing is your disk might not be initialized. And if it's not initialized, Windows doesn't see it. So you might need to actually use a disk initialization or create that in Windows, for example, in Windows 7, 8, and 10. If you use a disk install, when you click the install Windows button, you'll get to a point where you can custom install or automatic install. And I'm presuming you're choosing automatic and it doesn't see the drive. Go to custom install, and there you will have available the disk utility that will let you initialize the drive. It's going to see it. The disk utility will see that there's a hard drive, but it's going to tell you, well, there's no partitions. There's nothing. So you need to create a new active partition with that, and then you need to format it. Starting from there, you will have the possibility to see it and install Windows 10 correctly. It is a common thing because hard drives, when you buy them, are not initialized. There's no partitions, nothing on those. And the reason why is because we don't know what the hard drive where it's going to be installed in. Each machine has a different way. So a Windows PC has a way of initializing the hard drive. A Mac does it differently. It could be a hard drive for a specific machine, and that will initialize the hard drive in a specific way. Like say an Xbox. An Xbox does not format a hard drive in the same way that you formatted in a PC. But it's the same hard drive. It's just initialized differently. So when you start installing Windows, you'll get to the point where you can choose custom install. Choose that and make sure that you go into the disk properties to initialize the disk by creating a partition and formatting the partition so that after that you're ready to install Windows. We got a reply here from Steve Mail that says worked well from 2009 to 2013, then it slows down. Reinstall Windows 7 a couple of times. Further specs say it can go to 8 gigabytes RAM. Okay, and it was working well all the time, even though it slowed down probably because of the use of Windows 7 with time, but it worked well in general in Windows 7 every time you reinstalled. As for 8 gigabytes, if it can accept 8 gigabytes RAM, you know, I would say that if you, with 4 gigabytes, for 90% of everybody, 4 gigabytes is enough. Of course, if there's a very, very small difference in price between 4 and 8, you can go up to 8. But I would say that if 4 gigabytes might be more than enough. So if there's a big difference in price, it's not necessary to upgrade it for sure. What do we see here? Just searching through our bits and pieces and can't locate where we put the stuff. However, we found a SODIMM stick, 2 gigabytes, PC2 6400 memory. We may have some of this in our various storage places. Well, you could pass my email to the person who wants to have it, and I will gladly post it to him, her. So look, Steve, I'm going to give your email to Tim Robinson, and he might have some RAM for you. And he's gonna send you the RAM, and you know that's the best way. If the problem is not RAM, at least you won't have paid for RAM for nothing, because the SODIMM 2 gigabyte PC2 is okay, should work. So DDR2 or PC2 is the same thing for so those that wonder. Some RAM modules say PC2, PC3. It's the same as DDR2, DDR3, same thing. So if you don't mind, Steve, I'll give your email to Tim Robinson, and you guys arrange everything. So it's pretty cool. People helping people, I like that. So after the show, I'll give Tim your email, Steve. If there's something wrong or you don't want to, let me know. And but apart from that, I'll put you guys in contact. Okay, let's go now to other questions about the Windows registry. A few questions about the Windows registry. First, there's Tim Pritchard that says, I was just wondering something. I followed steps on a YouTube video on how to stop my USB drive showing in navigation pane in Windows Explorer twice, and it worked. I have used a registry editor before to solve problems. I was just wondering how they figure these things out. As I am sure you know, sometimes you have to go about 10 different paths in the navigation pane like I did for, and he's mentioning the registry key. So it says it just seems hard now. They figure all this out. Thanks for your time. I subscribed to quite a few on YouTube, but you are one of the few that ever answered. Thank you. Well, it's very simple. First of all, to answer also a question from Jonathan. Jonathan says, hi, question. I'm hearing here and there and seeing tweaks of registry in Windows. What's the registry? Okay, so we're going to answer what's the registry, how do they know the changes, and a question that I've been asked that often people ask me, does Windows 10 still have the registry? So here's the thing. What it is, the registry is basically the basics of Windows. It's kind of the pillar, and the Windows is built around it. It's way of functioning is the way Windows was actually created, uh, starting from that basic column and going through it and adding stuff to it. So the registry will increase in size all the time. If you've used your computer for 3 years and never reformatted, well, the registry is way bigger than it was when you install Windows for the first time. Why? Because everything you do writes values in the registry. Every program you install will write values in the registry. And so there's, an increase in information from the registry as you use Windows. And it's part of the reason why sometimes Windows can slow down. More and more information on the registry means more and more, things to deal with when you actually use Windows. It is something that Microsoft would gladly want to depart from. Microsoft, when the first story of they wanted to get out of the registry was when Windows XP came out, and it took a long time before Windows Vista came out. They worked on a project there to replace Windows XP with a very, very modern, different operating system. And it didn't work out, and they kind of panicked and did Windows Vista, which everybody knows was not the greatest operating system of all. But what happened there is that they had ideas, a new file system. They also had an idea of creating a Windows totally different, not based on the registry anymore, because the registry is the way it was working, but it also has many flaws. And as we're getting into Windows modern versions, we see the increased the increased negative side of the registry as we go on. So they wanted to do something else back then. And that's why they never made it, because it was so much of recreating an entirely new operating system. It was so different. They kind of got lost in the way, and they totally scrapped the operating system. And they started working on Vista because they knew they weren't getting there. Shareholders were putting pressure on Microsoft, telling them, look, Windows XP is getting old. You need to do something new to sell new Windows. And so they've gone back to the registry, which they knew, and they worked with to build Windows around it. Now, the registry in Windows 10 is still there, and that's why you've got compatibility with everything. The day the registry would go away from Windows, backwards compatibility with our software, with all of our hardware, is gone, because all of that backwards compatibility resides on one thing. There is a registry to write information into. So if they would do an operating system with no more registry, we'd have a new way of working with Windows totally. Software we have that install right now need to be rewritten completely in order to work in a Windows that would have no registry. So yes, they've continued with the registry. For the question of how do they know where this or that is simple. When you go to learn Windows in school, to learn the basics of how Windows is created, how it works, how the way it was built, well, you learn these notions. So the people that actually post these will be the ones with a very high knowledge of the registry, Windows registry, and Windows itself. Often, most of these will be very advanced programmers or tech guys that are way beyond, they're beyond my knowledge, for example. They know Windows like nobody does, and they know where everything is. And basically, the registry is built on different sections which have different areas where they do things. So basically, these people know this section is where I need to check for this type of problem or this type of functionalities in Windows. So they know where to pinpoint, they know where to go to and look at the area. So it's just getting a lot of knowledge. It's not, we just, okay, well, there's a driver problem, so let's, no, they are way beyond that. They're like, okay, the driver might have a value in this part of the registry that interferes with. And so that is really high knowledge of how Windows work to the basics. A friend of mine is at that level. I have a friend of mine that I always remembered how amazed I was. A friend of mine, I had about 10 years ago a problem with Internet Explorer. And I, as a tech guy, went to the point where, okay, we're going to have to reinstall Windows because I ain't getting anywhere. You do all the little tweaks that you see. You reinstall Internet Explorer. You just reset everything, and basically you get to a point that it still doesn't work. Well, he comes over and I'm talking to him about that, and by the type of problem that I had, he just went on my computer, opened the registry, here, there, that value here, that value there, let's reset that, let's do here, paf, restart the computer, I turn on Internet Explorer, works like a charm. The guy had a knowledge of the registry so good that by the type of problem, it was like, okay, in the registry there must be values that are not correct for specific things. And he reset everything. He knew how to reset all the values of Internet Explorer in the registry. I was completely amazed by that guy. So, these are the type of people basically that will point to a registry key. Another thing that you can also do to find a region of the registry for something is to search through it. So when you open the registry, there is a search function that you can actually say, okay, I have a problem with this software. And apparently it could be something with the registry. You can sometimes pinpoint registry keys by entering, say, Adobe. Say you have a problem with Adobe software. Well, you can go into the registry, search, and say, okay, give me everything that has Adobe in the information. And you'll see all the keys of the Adobe products, for example. And of course, you have to know what they mean. That's another thing. That's why there are experts that just know, it's like the guys that work with Windows, the guys that build Windows. They know it so well that they're going to go into the registry and fix something, where all of us are just going to, well, let's reinstall. So that's pretty much how it works with the registry stuff. So yeah, Tim Robinson says, I look at the registry as a kind of book listing in a library. It can tell you what books are there, what topics are contained in the books, what paging info is on, kind of like a very advanced indexing system. Yeah, it's kind of an indexing system, but it's even more than that. I compare it more like the human vertebrae, the human body. All the top of our human body is made. Our back is holding everything, and I think of the registry a little more like that, sustaining everything. So it sustains the Windows operating system, but it does have indexing to information of everything, showing paths of everything everywhere in the operating system. Also interacting with it. It's like it's more of a living index that can be changed at any moment, and values can point to different things, and some values can say, no, don't do that, or do this, or don't do nothing at all. So it's it's an amazing thing, but when they started thinking about how they would build Windows around this, it's it's pretty surprising. And you know, unfortunately, part of the way Windows is would probably benefit by having or removing the registry from it and rebuilding it in another way. But for compatibility, it's impossible. The registry is there and it's going to stay there for backwards compatibility. You know, if they remove the registry in Windows 10, imagine how everybody would go crazy, because they would say, hey, nothing works anymore. You got to have new hardware, or hope that the makers will actually make that new driver for the printer and stuff like that. A question from Laura, from Laura's Life channel. As always, I'm loving your shows and videos. My question is, my laptop is 64 bits, but everything on it seems to be 32. This is how it was when I bought it. I paid £50 to them to set up my PC. Please, can you explain why my laptop is working well and it won't mess? I won't mess with it, but I don't understand why they put only 32-bit operating system on it rather than 64. Is it easier for PC World to put 32 bits rather than 64? And can you do some back to basic videos? I appreciate it is probably a bit boring for you, but I still don't understand some terms you use. What with me being old? No problem, Laura, and I will do a few more. I'll do lots of videos and stuff on kind of back to basic stuff. Okay, here's the thing. If your computer's at least a Core 2 machine, has at least 2 cores, and is not too old, your computer can run a 64-bit operating system. Now, you know what? I'm wondering why they did not, because at I saw in one of the questions on the channel that you say you have 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is perfect for a 64-bit operating system. The reason why they did that is bizarre. Honestly, there's no difference in install in a 64 32-bit operating system. One thing that comes to mind that could be possible, no 64-bit drivers. That I've seen on some machines. So, for example, your computer has 4 gigs of RAM. It's capable of running 64-bit operating system, but the driver for the video card or the sound card or Wi-Fi or whatever does not have a 64-bit driver. And although 64-bit operating systems are compatible with 32-bit software and programs, it does happen that sometimes there are specific 64-bit or 32-bit drivers because of the way they work. So I don't, if they did that, maybe there was a driver that was missing on 64 bits. But apart from that, I don't really see why they did that. Honestly, on every computer I go and I install Windows from scratch, people want to have a Windows operating system, a new version. I always install 64 bits on machines that have at least 4 gigs of RAM or more. So there's it's weird that they did that. Maybe it's because, like I say, some drivers were missing. But you have 4 gigabytes of RAM, and that's also something that's weird, because one of the things about 4 gigabytes is that when you have 4 gigabytes of RAM in a 32-bit operating system, your computer actually only uses 2.75 gigabytes. It doesn't use the 4 gigs. And the reason for that is that it can't address more than that. It addresses 32-bit addressing stops at 2.75 or 76 gigabytes. So, but what they do is they trick you. They say you got 4 gigs of RAM in the machine, but in reality you got 2.75 or something that's available. And so they should have installed a 64-bit version for you, because it would have accessed the 4 gigabytes that you have, which is very weird. Another question that I have concerning this comes from Frank, regular contributor also. He was saying that he's got a few old software that are 32-bit software. Can I install these in 64-bit operating system? Most 32-bit programs are compatible with 64 bits. 64 bits was made to be have the most compatibility possible with 32-bit stuff. Like I say, there's exceptions to the rule. There are some software, there are some drivers that are not able to run. But most of the case, 64-bit will run 32-bit. Just run it and you'll see. If it doesn't work or crashes, you'll know it probably isn't compatible. And one of the questions also that Laura asked and a few other people have been asking recently, what's the advantage of 64 bits over 32 bits? And that question came up again because of Google Chrome. I posted a video on how to install the 64-bit version of Google Chrome in a computer. And the thing is, 64-bit addressing is different. So it can view more memory. It can access different parts of the operating system that it cannot in 32 bits. It technically is a little faster. Now, don't install 64 bits thinking it's going to be lightning fast. It depends on machines, and it could be almost the same on some machines. It tends to be slightly faster in some machines. But the biggest advantage of 64 bits also, apart from the fact that you can see lots of RAM memory and everything, is security. 64-bit operating systems also bring with them higher encryption, higher protection. So it's more difficult to hack into a 64-bit system than a 32. But it's really something that is basically I lost my my thought here because of an email that came in. Sorry. So that's it. More security in the way that it works in 64 bits, and it's more difficult to be hacked in 64 bits, even though it's not totally impossible. So hope it answers your question, Laura. And Tim's saying here, because Tim says, can she download and install x64 version for free on a 32-bit license key? No. You can do that with Windows 10, and it's the first operating system actually that you can really do it. It's the first time that an operating system can actually do it, to install a it's the first. So it's, apart from Windows 10, you cannot interchange 32, 64-bit. The key for 32-bit is not going to work on a 64-bit, and your computer that activated with 32-bit, Windows 7, Windows 8, there's no change possible. So Windows 8.1 is not interchangeable like Windows 10. I've shown a little tip and trick last week, on how you can use a 64-bit Windows 10 and a 32-bit machine or 32-bit Windows 10 install. Just reinstall with the 64 bits and it's going to work, because it's not on Windows 10. It's not dependent on the 32, 64 bits for the activation. But in Windows 8.1 and Windows 7, 32 and 64 bits are dependent for activation. So it means you got 32-bit Windows 7. You won't be able to activate with that key at 64-bit Windows 7. It won't work. And on Windows 8 either, unfortunately. But, in the near future, if you buy a new computer, though, check that out, because you shouldn't, I think everybody that buys a new computer should have 64-bit operating systems now. It's very important to have 64-bit operating system. So you're watching the live show where we answer your questions. Live from Montreal, Canada, and we try to answer your questions as usual. Steve Mail has another question here that I've seen. Actually, he's talking about a antivirus called Secure A Plus that has a lot of antivirus engines. You know what? I took a look at it, and I went through the web yesterday, last night. I was going through the web searching for more information on that Secure A Plus antivirus. From what I see is that it, first of all, it's something pretty new. It popped up somewhere in 2015, so about a year ago, not even a year ago. And what it promises is that it seems to be kind of a layer above the layer of your antivirus. It's very peculiar. I've never heard of that before. You just sent me the link. So what I will do is I will try it out and see for myself what exactly does it do. You know, they promise best antivirus ever and everything, and but I'm just curious as to exactly what it does and how it does it. So I'm going to come back at you with that and see if it's something that people maybe should have or not. But it's very peculiar. I've never seen that one before. And he's talking about how, you know, he doesn't like people who do videos with no dialogue and horrible music playing in the background. Doesn't watch them. What's my opinion? You know, I'm a how should I say this? I've got many YouTube channels, and of course, on some YouTube channels, I'm more social than others. Okay, I'm going to say that like that. So, on my radio channels, I'm a very social radio guy. So I do subscribe to a lot of other radio channels that I find interesting. But I am extremely selective of what the content I will actually point to or look at. On my Windows channel, if you guys check it out, I haven't subscribed to many people. And one of the things is that I rarely find other YouTube channels that talk about computers that I agree with the people there and that I like what they do. So I agree that there's all sorts of, it takes all sorts of people to make a world. And thing is, some YouTube channels do it, everybody tries to do it in its own way. Some copy others. I have my way of doing things. And it's funny because my nephew that has a YouTube channel was telling me how he finds that my videos are kind of drab in the sense that you don't have an intro, you don't have that little music saying, hey, welcome to the Windows channel with that little tune. And the first thing that I answered back was, the first thing that I hate the most when I go watch a video is when there's a 2-minute intro for a 2-minute video. I don't care about that music, and I don't care about having a flashy, you welcome to this channel thing. It's not my thing. I'm more of a direct guy, okay? Here's the video. Here's what I want to tell you about, and thank you for watching. And it's straightforward, okay? And that's the way, it's my way of doing things, and I like it like that. So, it's very different depending on, other people channel. There are a lot of channels where people have no idea what they're talking about. Yes, too many of those, by the way. People just sit down and try to talk about something they have no idea. Too many of those. A lot of ranting also. I do get a few. There are a few channels that have similar content that are trolling me in some way. Saying how I'm an a-hole and how I should stop talking about things. But I don't give a I don't give a damn about what they think about, and I do my thing. And I rarely talk about any others. There's one very, very trollish guy on this channel that I haven't talked about at all. And he posted tons of videos telling how I am a real jerk. So anyways, enough said about Windows 10 stealing data. Yeah. Also, the thing about my video that I posted yesterday, look, our data is being checked out everywhere, and there's a lot of stuff. And yes, there's a lot of those. Also, he's mentioning how almost 75% of videos bash Windows 8, 8.1, and are the same people who hate the tiles even in Windows 10. Sometimes you have to vent. Yep, I look at, of course, when you look at the YouTube channel, if I look at my YouTube channel, on the right side you get suggestions of similar content, and I don't look at it because I just get banned, because I have my video and then you see the content of why you should never install Windows 10, why Windows 8 is crap, just shut up. Just shut up, okay? I'm sorry. Windows 8 was a good operating system, and especially if you had a touch device. Windows 8 was amazingly good with a touch device. Now, you don't agree with the tiles, and you don't like the tiles, and you don't like the way it is, shut up and use Windows 7 and stay there. Same for Windows 10. One thing that I'm not going to talk about, this is the last time I'm talking about this today. The pop-up window, people going crazy. But you know what? Let's look at the basics first of that pop-up window. Yeah, it is a little, most of the thing about the pop-up is Microsoft isn't necessarily totally fair when with what it's doing, but you know what? It all comes down to one very simple fact. People aren't reading the windows they have in the face. Because somebody told me, hey, it installed Windows 10. I clicked the X. Well, what does the Windows say? Well, it said it would install Windows at this time and date. Yeah. Clicking an X does not mean you're canceling anything. It never meant you're canceling anything. In people's minds, it meant you're canceling something. But you're not. The window stated you're installing Windows 10 on this date at this time. And you closed it with the X. And I kind of have to say, well, you agreed to it. Because if you continue reading, underneath it says, if you wish to postpone to another date or something, click here. If you would have read what it says, there was a way to get out of it. So it's more of people don't read and have a wrong idea of what certain things do, including closing the window with an X. It never canceled anything. It just closes a window. So, one of the last times I'm talking about is I'm tired of that, the people going crazy over the pop-up, and I'm pretty much in a mode where it's like, hey, you gotta get Windows 10. Fine, cool. You'll have a modern operating system. Stop whining, it's free. That's pretty much my idea of it, and I get tired of that, and it goes to, as a tech guy over all the years that I've been going to clients, a lot of what I've seen is the inability of people to read what's in the computer screen correctly. A lot of what I fixed or changed was because, look, the window gave you a way out. You just didn't read it. So, you know, read your computer screens. Read what the windows tell you. It's very important. You know, not counting that the tech guy goes to your place and basically the person cannot tell you anything. Well, there was a pop-up. Yeah. I clicked the X. Yeah. Right. Tim Robinson says most of my subscription use an intro, like Tech Yes City, e.g. Tech Yes City, Jay's 2 cents, Tech of Tomorrow, use an intro, but very short and to the point. I go mad when I have to watch an intro of more than 15 to 20 seconds. Could I guess the name of the troll posting hates with any level of accuracy? No. No, I don't think you have been on contact with. It's been a while, at least a year and a half, and he's still trying to do stuff, but he can't because I blocked all the possibilities of him writing on the channel. But he's, I've got spies, and you know that's interesting because I never asked for anybody to tell me about anything, and I've got troll here, I've got trolls on my radio channel, and the interesting thing is that a lot of my viewers that love what I do will send me emails and saying, hey, I took a screen capture of that other guy talking about you, saying that you're dumb and stupid and whatever. And I even have screenshots sometimes of their Twitter feeds saying, hey, look, that guy's talking about you on Twitter and it's not very nice, you know. And I never ask for that. I don't care. You know, if he's saying something about me somewhere, I don't give a F about it. And basically, you know, it's just funny because people want me to know because they want me to know that, you know, that guy's not good with you. I think, you know, he's saying bad things on you. And it's interesting, you know, people want to help me by sharing that information. Or, you know, a lot of people actually, you know, the funniest thing about that that troller here on the Windows channel is that he has computer content, and he's like, you know, 1/10 the size of my channel. I think he's barely arriving at 1 million views, and you know, I think it's the guy is more like jealousy. He's just jealous of what I do and how I, you know, am somewhat popular at doing it. And the funny thing is, since he started on his own channel and on different places, trolling me directly, you know, mentioning my name in my YouTube channel name, he's lost subscribers that are subscribed to my channel because they're like, okay, I don't like that guy. He's talking against the other guy, and the other guy's quite all right. And so, you know, it's childish, stupid morons on YouTube. So let's continue on our your questions, my answer stuff. We have, okay, let's check it out here. We have Mary, no, not Mary, not yet. Mary Ellen Parker is after, just next. We have Julia. Julia that says a lot of names with J today. I was looking at the names. John, Jonathan, Julia. Julia asks, she's running a small business and she has to share files with a lot of clients. So she's mentioning, should I get a paid antivirus? What's the difference with a paid and a free? Right now, she's running Windows Defender in Windows 10. She says, should I get something a little more powerful? Thanks for your advice, and thank you for your videos. They've helped me a lot. in setting up my computers here at my office. Julia, I will probably always say that if you're a business user and share information with a lot of people, share documents with a lot of people, I do think you should have a paid antivirus instead of a free one. Like Nod 32 is one of my favorites, NOD 32. And the reason is they do check more. They do more than Windows Defender. And so you could kind of think that they would maybe just help you protect you more against documents or things that are sent from other users that might be a problem, that might be something, might have a virus in a macro and a Word and an Excel document and stuff like that, and not counting every other thing that can happen. Your clients might be infected and they start sending you all sorts of spam and stuff. But that said, you're still the number one security. So be careful at what you open. Look at the attachments very carefully before clicking anything. Make sure that that Word document is a Word document, that the Excel file is an Excel file. The biggest problem is disguised documents. It looks like a Word document, but it's not. Often you can see it because it doesn't have the same icon. So, follow your own instinct. It's rather good. And, I think that will be much more powerful in protecting you than any antivirus you'll ever buy. Also, you're mentioning that you've got AVG on another computer and that it seems to slow down your computer. What should I do? Yeah, AVG does slow down computers. I've noticed that AVG is rather heavy on usage on the computers, and especially when it starts scanning at pretty much any time. You could maybe, I would uninstall AVG. If you want to stay in this free antivirus, I would uninstall AVG and install, you're mentioning it's a Windows 7 machine, so install Windows Security Essentials, which is the same as Windows Defender and Windows 10 pretty much. So Microsoft Security Essentials, and remove AVG first, then install Security Essentials. You'll see that it's lighter and works better on your computer. Yeah, I said this the last time I talked about the pop-up, but I'm going to mention it just a little more because I do have a question. Before we get, by the way, to the question from Mary Ellen Parker, there is a question from let me just check here. Alex. Alex says that he's got 4 computers and going crazy with a Windows 10 upgrade pop-up. He wants to know what I think of the pop-ups. It just resumes what I said a little earlier. Okay, what do I think of the pop-up? Yeah, I think Microsoft is maybe pushing it a little far. I do think there should be a big cancel button. Yeah, I think Microsoft is going a little too far with it. But that said, if you read what's in it, and you did, because you do say that you've clicked the postpone, that means you read what's in the window and you understand that there's a way of pushing it back. Now, interesting, because there's no way of stopping it. There's just a way of pushing it back. And of course, you can get Never 10 from grc.com, and Never 10 will stop those pop-ups from appearing. But if people would read, a lot of them would not be in Windows 10 right now. They just don't read. And like I said, an X does not mean you're canceling anything. It just means you're stopping or you're closing down a window. And that's pretty much what I have to say. With I did nothing, but Windows 10 is installed. Yeah, you did something. You didn't read. There's no such thing as you did nothing and it installed. A lot of people said, yeah, well, it installed and I did nothing. And I did get a lot of people saying, I installed on my computer and I did nothing. That's the thing. You did something. You didn't read for it to be postponed or anything, and you didn't follow any instructions or anything. So you are having Windows 10 installed because you're not doing what it's needed to stop the install. That's pretty much it. Thanks for your question. And by the way, I'm not doing any new videos about the pop-up anymore, unless it changes to a degree where it says I'm installing Windows and that's it. We're not talking about this anymore. I've had enough of the pop-up and the bad publicity of Windows 10 with that. Okay, Mary Ellen Parker she loved your mini-series on the calendar app. It was very helpful. I hope you will continue these little mini-series. They are great. Yep, I've had a lot of positive stuff about the little mini-series on the one on the calendar app. One on the photo app is coming. We'll have mini-series on different apps that are pre-installed in Windows 10. And we'll also have mini-series on software that you can install and use in your computer to replace things. For example, replacing media player with DOM pod player or VLC. Now you're asking the question, following question: how do I know if my photos in Windows 10 photo app are public or private? I don't see a setting for this in the actual app. This really bugs me, as I don't really want my laundry hanging out there for everyone to see. I don't have anything to hide. I just like my privacy and want to control what I choose to put on the internet. Now, when you use the photo app in Windows 10, it is not a public. It's not public. Okay, nobody can see your photos. It checks photos and shares photos with two places in Windows: your hard drive, so the pictures you have in your picture folder will be in the photo app, and OneDrive. So if you have a Microsoft account, it will also check for pictures in OneDrive. But these are all private. You are not sharing your pictures with anybody in the photo app. So don't worry about it. It's okay. Under settings in the mail app for Windows 10, under email security, why does it tell me the settings can be applied to any of your accounts? Currently only have one account. I use Kaspersky. Does that have anything to do with it? No, email security has to do with the way that some servers actually handle security. Some accounts, especially pop accounts, can be set up with a secure server connection. So that email security has to do with that type of account. The simple reason why it's not available with your account is because the way your account is probably an IMAP account, or it's the way it's synchronized, it does not work with that type of security. It has other types of security that is automatic. But you do have email security. Some servers are secured, and you need to tell the mail app, okay, well, I'm using secure servers for my email, and here's the details of what port and how it works. So it doesn't have to do anything to do with Kaspersky. But that said, your Kaspersky antivirus probably scans everything that gets into your mail app. And 3, how do I set a default font size, and color for typing in mail and calendar app? It is frustrating for me because every time I use the mail app, I have to set which font size, and color each time I compose an email. I will reserve that question for a video that I'll be posting, and it will be probably the last video on the series of the mail app or the calendar app. And also I will do a series on the mail app itself. So I'll be showing you how to do that in the mail app, because I haven't seen that setting. So I'm not really sure yet if it's possible. It must be. So I'll check it out and make a video. So check for that in the next 2 to 3 days. There'll be a little mini series on email, the mail app also, so you might enjoy that. And finally, have you received the update to Outlook.com yet? I haven't, or at least I don't think I have. I've heard a lot of people don't see much difference between the old and the new. How can you tell if you have received it? Yeah, you know what? That's the funniest thing about that. A lot of people are mentioning how they don't really know if they've got the new one or not. So from what I've learned is that on the upper left corner where you see Outlook.com, it should change to Outlook Mail. It should say something like Outlook Mail. So visibly here, I'm still on the old Outlook. But when you look at the top bar and you see on the left side it says Outlook Mail, apparently you know that you are in the new Outlook. And yeah, there's not a lot of changes apparently, but it's coming soon. There's still many months before everybody. And the more you use, apparently, the more you use your Outlook account, the longer it's going to take before they get to your account to change that. So hope it answers your question, and look for the videos on the mail and the mail app, mini series on the mail app, and also we'll check out fonts and colors in that in one of the videos. Smartphone brands, we have Alexander that says, Dear Shell, thank you for your answer on your question about sleep mode. Probably leave it until anniversary update and then reinstall the system from scratch. In last Tuesday's show, you were asked about laptop brands. You say, but what about smartphone brands? Is it important when choosing a smartphone? Is none top branded smartphones, Alcatel, Brevis, Doogee, Fly, Gigabyte, Huawei, Impression, and so on. There's a lot of ZTE, Xiaomi, Prestigio, the same quality as top brands like Samsung, Sony, LG, HTC, and others. While non-top branded smartphone work in a few years after buying as good as the top branded. What about lower segment market, $100, $150? Should we buy non-top branded smartphones in lower segment of the market? Well, you know what? That's the thing. I do have a lot of people that have shown me. A guy that I know that I see regularly has this phone that has a weird name. And when I started searching for it, it is a Alcatel phone branded in a very weird name. The thing is, I would say that when you buy a smartphone that is not top branded, okay, say you buy this weird name smartphone, what I've noticed most of the time is because they are in smaller markets, I've noticed that a lot of the smartphones tend to not be updated very often. So that could cause a security risk. Also, lower end weird branded phones often are sluggish. They're very slow when you operate, and you notice that they're not super fast when you do things. Another problem with non-top branded phones is the lack of sometimes regular support for like the Play Store. They will have their own Android store with apps because they need apps that are programmed in a specific way to have it work on that device. Often there's not a lot of updates of the Android stuff, so basically you'll have older Android very often, in especially the lower segment, older Android operating systems like KitKat 4.4 instead of Marshmallow 6 or Lollipop 5. So it's a question. Some of these brands, like for example Huawei, does have a few flagship top of the line phones that are amazing, but lots of cheap stuff that's very sluggish. You know what? The $100 and $150 market is very surprising, depending on what you get. What I would do when I see a phone of a weird, unknown brand would be to simply look at the specs, how much RAM it has, and what version of Android it comes with, because most of the time it's Android. And see, does it really matter? Because very often I will say to someone, instead of buying that weird brand phone, why don't you get yourself an older, good brand phone? So for example, people will say, hey, I see this $150 phone from Huawei. And I'll say, yeah, but you know that for 150 bucks you get the Galaxy S5 or the Galaxy S6 generation before, still great phones. And you might actually find that those phones are better than that $150 phone. Unless it really shows promise and has the real standards like the Google Play Store and everything. I would always tend to maybe buy an older brand phone than to buy a new weird brand phone, basically. That's what I would say. You also say my mother has a phone problem. She uses old Samsung SGH C260 phone after receiving certain SMS message from network operator, Vodafone Ukraine, former MTS Ukraine. With special offers, new services, etc. The phone begins lagging. Telephone switching off, reboot permanently with sign wait, unable to receive, make any calls. Unable to delete SMS, which caused the issue. The only way to fix it is to delete all the incoming messages on a SIM card or phone. The issue occurs about once a month, as I thought it was a problem with the phone, but on popular forum and mobile communications in Ukraine, I found many users with the same problem on different devices. Okay, yeah, I did check it out. It's a weird issue. It seems to be. I'm almost wondering if you're not, you're not getting some kind of weird SMS that has the ability to write something or change something in your phone. That's for sure something that is kind of weird, and it could be because I checked your specific model, because it's easy to check out on different phones. I've checked your specific model that you've mentioned here, and it seems to have a lot of flaws with problems, not just where you are, but with SMS. So it could be a phone issue. It could be something that's not quite right with that phone. And when it starts being overloaded with a few SMS of specific types, it somehow slows down. But very weird issue, I must say. Very weird issue. There are phones that have these very unique problems, and it's kind of complex to really know sometimes what's happening. Hope you enjoyed my answers. For sure. And also we have, of course, one of the most important things. What's the most important thing to check when you buy a smartphone? Check the amount. One of the things that you need to know first is what's the version of Android if it's an Android phone. Is it at least Lollipop version 5 or even more recent, like version 6? Is it running also the real Google Play Store for an Android phone? Does it have a lot of RAM? A lot of these have like 1 GB RAM, which is not a lot, and often is sluggish on the phone. Try to get a phone that has more RAM. The storage capacity, 16 gigabytes doesn't do much today. Get at least 32 and 64 gigabytes. Make sure you have a lot of space. Checking out the ability to insert a SD card to store. On my Galaxy S7, I love that. I've got a 200 gigabyte SD card in here. So basically, I have storage for everything I want, and I can even put some apps on the storage side. So, these are a few things to check for. We also have a question from, let's just check it out here. Okay. We also have a question from Fred. Fred is a MacBook user, and here's the questions he's got. So he's at 10.8, which is pretty old. It's been a little while. He says that people telling him to upgrade his MacBook Pro to 10.11, which is El Capitan. Now, he says, will it slow down my Mac? Will it work well? Will I lose compatibility with software that I have? I'd say from 10.8 to 10.11, you probably won't lose much compatibility with most of the stuff you have. Yes, it is an issue. People that saying Macs don't have a problem. Yeah, when you upgrade to a version, you sometimes lose some programs. You sometimes lose software or capabilities that were working before. Will it slow down your Mac? Since your Mac came with 10.8, it probably is powerful enough and has enough RAM to run 10.11 quite all right. You're asking me that questions now, 10.11, but what you could do is wait, and if you can, and 10.12 is coming up later this year. Maybe you can jump to that version and you'll be at the latest version of all. You also are asking that you have a MacBook Pro that has a hard drive problem. You say that you went to the Apple Store, way too expensive to change the hard drive. What alternative do you have? You know what? Very easy to change a hard drive on the MacBook Pro. You just turn it over, take out the screws in the bottom, you open the metal plate, and you'll see the hard drive in the corner. All you have to do is unscrew the little screws there. You might need Torx screwdrivers because they sometimes use weird Torx screws in Macs. That's to prevent everybody from opening up. And you know what? You go to any regular computer store and you buy a laptop hard drive. There's no, because you're saying, well, is it an Apple branded hard drive? It is an Apple, I'll just say it. It's an Apple certified hard drive. But you know what? It's a PC hard drive. So go and get a new hard drive at a computer shop. Ask them for a laptop hard drive. Replace it. Reinstall your operating system with the disks if you don't have it, or a thumb drive, USB thumb drive, and it's going to work fine. I've replaced tons and tons of MacBook and MacBook Pro hard drives. Works great, and no problem there. And last question you got is about changing a battery in an old MacBook Pro. Doesn't hold the charge that much, and we'd like to change it. You know what? For that, get it serviced by Apple, or a Apple tech person, somebody that really can help you with Apple products, because it's dreadfully difficult to remove a battery in a MacBook Pro. They've done it in a way that it's kind of almost stuck there, and it's so difficult that I would probably have that serviced by somebody instead of doing it yourself. It's going to be dreadfully difficult. And on many of the MacBook Pros, they've soldered the wire of the battery directly on the motherboard, so it's kind of impossible. It's very difficult, at least. So you're watching the live tech show number 36 for June 7, 2016. Let's check it out. We still have about 5 minutes. Let's check out here Tim Robinson that says, hey Joel, I decided that I wasn't going to update my graphics drivers, the NVIDIA, because it was working fine. I skipped 2 updates and noticed that my PC would not shut down properly. The fans and power stayed on, and I had to hold the power button for 4 seconds. Also, this ruined my chance of scheduling a check disk on the C drive, obviously, as I had to hold the power button. I decided that the graphics driver was probably the cause of this, so I updated the driver, and everything was back to how it should be. It seems that some hardware vendors have a 0-day effect on their driver software. Have you experienced this effect on your customer's machine? Thank you. Yeah, I've seen similar type of problems on some computers. Sometimes you have to know one thing about drivers. You know, you don't update your graphics driver because everything works fine, and you know you're scared that it could impact, especially if you play games. It's a little scary to upgrade your graphics driver all the time because you're wondering if it will have an effect on the games that you play, because sometimes it does. But the thing is, when you get updates with your computer, some drivers rely on also some specific internal software from Windows. For example, the .NET framework. And so you'll get an update of the .NET framework, but the .NET framework version you're at now, with the driver you have, might have an issue. So it might stop working correctly because of that. It could be something else also. It could be that when you reinstall the driver, it also changed something else in Windows. It's very difficult. You know, these are the kind of things that, you know, here you've upgraded the graphics driver, and it, you know, fixed that problem. So it's very, very weird sometimes what happens, but I've seen similar effects on many computers and many people that had, you know, all of these have problems and stuff. So you know, it's just funny sometimes how PC works and how they impact everything that we do. Okay, we have Fred that's coming back, first saying thank you for answering my questions on my Mac computers. So you say that changing the hard drive on my Mac is quite easy. I've changed hard drives in some of my desktop computers I had many years ago, but now I'm all Mac. So if I am able to change a desktop computer, you say I should be able to change a MacBook Pro hard drive. Is that right? And second of all, is there something special to ask for the hard drive? Thanks for your answers. Well, if you, in the past, changed a hard drive in a desktop computer yourself, you're totally capable of changing a hard drive in a MacBook Pro. It's very, very easy. And, you know, just before we end, I'm going to show you an example because I have one here. It's a MacBook Pro that I just fixed from a client. So I'm going to show you guys, not the internals, but at least how it works. So this is a client's MacBook Pro that I have here. And basically, there are screws all around. Remove all the screws of the base here. Be careful, the screws that are near the edge of the screen where there's the bending of the laptop, are longer than the ones around it, so make sure that you put them in the same correct position. And once you open this part, this is a metal plate. The hard drive basically on this is here. The hard drive is in the corner right here. So basically you take it off, you have a little screw, remove the screw, you take it off, and you insert the other one there, put the screw back so that it holds. There's no specifics for the hard drive. It's a regular PC SATA hard drive, so there's nothing specific to ask about it. It's just a regular hard drive. So you just say you need a hard drive for a laptop. He's going to ask you what size you want to have for it. So say, for example, your MacBook comes with a 500 gig hard drive. Why not take that occasion and boost your hard drive capacity to, say 1 terabyte? Take a 1 terabyte hard drive and insert it. And you'll need to reinstall after that the operating system. One of the things that you'll need to do when you start installing the operating system in here with the install USB thumb drive, or if you have a DVD or something, the thing that you'll need to do is use the disk utility. So when you're in the install process, you'll have to use the disk utility to format and partition that new hard drive so that it can receive the Mac operating system. If you don't, it will not. So once you start installing, you'll have a menu at the top. There you can go and check out the disk utility. Click the hard drive, you'll see it in the disk utility. Click partition, partition the hard drive, format it with the Mac OS extended format or something like that. It resembles that. And then you'll be able to install your OS 10 operating system on the MacBook. So hey, we're all over here. Just want to see here. What do we have? I'm just going to check out one thing here. GT Service, nice to have you on board. He says, I have a dedicated Linux server with CentOS, and my videos play choppy and have dropouts. My server specs are great and fast, 100 megabyte line. I was told installing FFmpeg would solve that issue. Any ideas? Make sure that all the drivers are correct on that Linux machine, especially the graphics adapter driver. That's the first thing that I would check out because it's very mysterious. Yes, FFmpeg might actually work if it's a core issue with the way that it's actually rendering. Also, when you say video, if it's video in a web browser, try it out with another browser, or what browser are you using? Firefox, or you can install Chrome. You can install, of course, Google Chrome also. But interesting issue here. But I would start by checking out, going into the system properties, and checking out if the drivers are correctly installed, if the graphics adapter is correctly installed also. Because it could be that also for the playback. But if everything seems right, you can try FFmpeg, that could work. But also, if it's web videos that you're looking at, for example, through a browser, try another browser. Try to install Chrome. You can go to the Google page and have Chrome installed for Linux. Check it out, and give me more news when you are back next week, when we're back next week. So we'll, of course, answer other questions. So Sorry, guys, I have no more time. Some questions are actually coming in right now, and I have no more time because I have to prepare for Learn the Tech at 6 p.m. tonight. We're going to talk about a brief history of television from when it started to 8K TVs, and hope you enjoy. We are on every week, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 hours Universal Time. We answer your questions. So, Mickey, Fernando, and Julia, we will answer your questions. You will be the three first to have questions answered next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for watching us. Nice to have you on board, all of you. Thank you for your questions. If you have any questions during the week, send them to helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. I'll gladly answer any questions in the show, and hopefully you will enjoy our answers. And the GT service, I'm not a big expert in Linux. I do have a Linux dedicated machine. I do play around Linux a lot, but I still need to brush up on my Linux side to even have it have it better and have better knowledge of Linux itself. So take care, everyone. See you next week. And don't forget, 6 p.m. today, 2200 hours UTC. Learn the Tech. We're talking about television, from where it comes from the beginnings, to 8K TVs and technology that we use today. So bye-bye, everyone. And see you next week, 3 p.m. Eastern. Bye.